Hello, welcome back to a new video. So today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 favourite Walking Dead universe characters. So to get started straight away, number 5 is Victor Strand. Now, each character in this list will be a character that has something about them, something quite interesting. And Victor Strand, he's very interesting. He is a very sneaky character whose motives you're not always too 100% sure about. And I give you 2 examples from even rebooted Fear and OG Fear. So from seasons 1 and 2, when Strand helped the Clarks, Manawas, and Salazars, we always kind of wonder what his intention was. Was he helping them to be nice? Was he helping them to use them? Was he helping them as in to blackmail them? We don't really fully grasp why Strand does what he does. Another example is in season 6, when Strand takes over Virginia's army. It was supposed to be a shock to us too, and well, at least it was to me. I don't know if anyone else would have seen it coming, but it was a shock to me too when there was that moment in season 6 and things seemed like they were gonna turn sides, and it was like Virginia had everyone caught, and then Strand does whatever he does, and then half of Virginia's army turn against her. Strand's doing things like that that's very sneaky. We love to see it. I think that it's great. I think that it puts he's a character where if you send him off, you don't know what he's gonna do. In season 4, the beginning, when they're at the stadium, Strand, you can see him making plans to sneak off with somebody else and loading supplies in the back of a car. Now, Strand isn't a perfect character. None of the characters on this list are. Kind of maybe 1 or 2, if you want to put it that way. But honestly, Strand is by far, he's got depth to him. He's a character where you don't know what's next. He was the villain of season 7, and it was quite cool to be a villain. I thought it was alright. I mean, look, season 7 and Strand being the villain is a whole other separate story, but at face value, Strand being the main villain of season 7 is something that I put him in quite high regard for, and I thought that he was somewhat intimidating. He was very theatrical, maybe arguably a little too much, but overall, Victor Strand is a character that will suck you right in, and you just won't want to stop engaging in what he's going to do next. Number 5 is Alicia Clark. So a little bit low, maybe. If you watch the channel, you might think that I would have put her higher. And arguably, Alicia probably could be behind Strand, but I'm not going to put him there. I'm going to put Strand at 5 and Alicia at 4. So Alicia is very interesting. They all are. I'm going to use that word a lot. Deal with it. Alicia starts off pretty silly, pretty stupid, or maybe stupid in a zombie apocalypse, but not necessarily dead stupid as a teenage girl. I mean, kind of. Some of the stuff she does is ridiculous. Like, for example, following or trying to find her boyfriend in season 1, even though he had the infection, which was very dangerous, especially because no one really knew what was going on. In season 2, when Alicia was contacting the pirates, that was also very dangerous. So why am I saying this about Alicia when, she seems like a bit of an idiot? Well, it's the change that she makes. So in season 2, episode 14, I believe, Wraith, which is one of my favourite episodes, and one of the best of season 2, Alicia saves Travis by killing one of the guys in the hotel that tried to kill Travis. And Alicia, from that moment on, actually turns into quite a brave character. And she's someone that's like a leader, but not a leader. They try and make her a leader in season 7, but it's a bit weird. I don't know. Season 7's a weird season, guys. You probably already know that if you're watching this video, maybe not. Season 7 of Fear, that is. But Alicia is kind of like the opposite of Strand. Like, that she's kind of got good intentions, and she wouldn't be sneaky if there wasn't a good reason for it. Whereas Strand is kind of the opposite. He'd be sneaky, but you wouldn't know why, and you can still take estimates on why he does certain things. Whereas Alicia is someone that might not listen, might still be that teenage girl or whatever, but she'll always do something to try and help, even if it doesn't always work out. And of course, she's a Clark, and that is a huge thing, because there are possibly characters that could have gone ahead of Alicia, like I said, Strand, but I think the fact that she's a Clark, and she completes the trilogy of Clarks, it just gives Alicia so much kind of, power, just by her name, and I absolutely love Alicia. She's one of my favourite protagonists, and I'm so glad that we get to see her in Fear all the way up until at least season 7, but we'll figure out whether we see her anymore. I don't know. But yeah, Alicia's fantastic, and she's a character that you feel so warm by. She does have idiotic moments, but I'm not looking at them. I'm gonna gloss over them. Like when she wouldn't kill a walker, I am glossing over that. But because even in season 4, she was with Charlie and she hated Charlie and probably should have killed Charlie, and we probably would have loved her even more. But she didn't kill Charlie and even took Charlie to the beach, which was absolutely ludicrous. But you can't say that Alicia's bad for that. You can actually command Alicia for putting her horrible betrayal feelings aside to take Charlie to the beach. Number 3, this is probably a very unpopular list. It's very fear heavy. But number 3, I say that. Number 3 is Rick Grimes. I know, I'm putting him at number 3. Am I kidding? What? Rick Grimes? Rick Grimes? Cool. I'm putting him at number 3. Yeah, I am. Rick Grimes is probably the biggest character of, I don't want to say simple development, but simple development. He is a sheriff, so he's already got kind of like a leadership level. And throughout that time, he kind of learns from his experiences and becomes a bigger leader and a better person. And everything that Rick does, everybody loves. And, you take his experiences with the governor, with Shane, that just make Rick become this person that everybody loves. It's the fact that Rick is a leader that is the reason that he's one of my favourites. You don't have to be a leader, at least my number 2 character isn't a leader, but the fact that Rick is the leader that he is makes him one of my favourites, and it's his development, because he already has like leadership qualities. Like, he's a sheriff, so he's gonna have some authority and everything, but it's the fact that he changes and leads people in this new world that makes him so likable. And Rick is someone that never like puts a foot wrong in terms of like Strand does things in a bit of a bad way. Rick does things to save the people he loves in a good way, and would only do something bad to bad people for the greater good and the community. And Rick can be really violent, like when he bit off that person's ear, everything that happened in Terminus, the governor, things that happen with Rick. He does absolute badass things that you just like, yes, come on, Rick. Like, I absolutely love this guy. So that's basically why Rick is number 3. He's absolutely mesmerizing and 10 out of 10. All these characters are 10 out of 10 on this list, and Rick is obviously 10 out of 10. Maybe he's 11 out of 10 because he's just so special and means a lot to everybody. And without him, The Walking Dead wouldn't have been the same. And, I'm on about the universe and just The Walking Dead, but regardless, it wouldn't be the same without Rick Grimes. At the number 2 spot is Nick Clark. Nick Clark absolutely deserves this number 2 spot. He is probably the most unique character in the Walking Dead universe. Like, we've had leaders, we've had sneaks, we've had just heartwarming people. I don't really know like a word to describe Alicia in one word, but we've had all kinds of different people, and Nick is definitely the most unique. Nick is someone who kind of sees the world in a different light to everyone else. And I know there are characters that feel that way, like Herschel when he first saw walkers, Celia, the two of them, the one belief about walkers not being fully dead. Now, what they did and everything else about them is different, but the fact that they both believed that walkers were different, they saw the world different to other people. But Nick sees it like differently to that. Like, he kind of believes walkers are dead, but I can't describe it. This is why he's at number 2, because he's just so unique. Like, for example, in Fear the Walking Dead, Nick is the person to show us that if you cover yourself in blood and guts, you can walk with the walkers. And he does that multiple times in season 2. It's very evident and highlighted when he walks with them in multiple different areas and times. Now, the fact that he was the one to show us this just by thinking about it or getting covered in blood or walker guts and trying it out, like, it shows that Nick's a bit like, he sees it differently, or like he'll do different things. And then you have his whole drug addiction thing, which was very interesting. Like, no other character that I can at least think of from the top of my head suffers from any kind of drug addiction or any kind of addiction necessarily like that, which just again makes Nick even special. And you kind of want to support him, but then some of the stuff he does is really like dick moves, like absolutely horrific, like in season 1 especially with these drugs and all. But you still kind of like him and you want him to get better because he's just got such a likable approach about him. In season 3, he was going to kill Jeremiah. I forgot if he... this is terrible, but I forgot if he actually did or if Madison did it. I think Madison ended up doing it, but the fact was Nick was going to do that because Nick is just badass. Like, he's a mix between like unique, different, badass, and he's just someone that you care about. You want to watch him. You know, all these characters have something that you want to watch. They're not just another generic character who's like, they're there, they have a boring story. Each of these characters, like I said, has something about them. And Nick has something about him that just makes him different. And even season 2, they kind of touch on this a little bit when he's talking to Celia, and it's why he has such a good relationship with Celia, because Celia realizes it too. Nick shouldn't have died. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that there are numerous other ways that Nick should have gone, even if he was to die. But at the end of the day, Nick is loved by so many people, and there is a really good reason on why he's second of my list. And in number 1 spot, if it wasn't already obvious, it's Madison Clark. What? No way! You think Madison Clark's the best? Of course I do. Madison Clark is literally like, oh, I could just watch her for hours. Like, and Madison Clark is that good. Like, I just have such a love for the actor Kim Dickens, because she just does such a good job with Madison. And I just see Kim Dickens and I see Madison. I just see this relationship, and I go feral. I go feral for it. Kim Dickens, or Madison Clark, has a tunnel vision. She's like Rick, but different. She's this mix between Strand and Rick. Now, Rick does things for the greater good. He will do bad things to bad people to help a community. Madison would do bad things for bad people for her friends and her family, not necessarily for a community. Madison is a leader, and in certain situations, Madison would do absolutely vile things to help her community. She would do things to help everyone get together, but the end result, the back end of it, is it's all for her and her family. Like, she wants a safe place for them, whereas Rick wants a safe place for everyone, and he wants to be more happy. Madison has more of a selfish, Strand-like intent, and the dynamics between Madison and Strand are amazing. The friendship is great to see. It's glad that there is that kind of friendship. Madison's ruthless, probably up there. Like, Rick, in some moments, is definitely very ruthless, but I also think that Madison can maybe not tie, but she has her own badass ruthless moments. And I feel like she just didn't get enough time to prove it. And that's one thing I have to say about Madison. It's a shame that I don't have like a load more to say about all the violent things and things that she did, because she kind of like wasn't the same after season 3. In season 8, you know, I also thought that she had more of a nicer quality. I feel like they did seem to drop a little bit of this badass evil persona, or they kind of made Madison badass, but they made her less evil, less selfish. It wasn't as good. But the first 3 seasons of Madison, her development as well, I would say a lot of these characters have good development. When we first meet Madison, she's just kind of like there. She seems a bit quiet. She seems like she's got secrets, but she doesn't do too much. And as the series progresses, season 2, I think it is, we see the flashbacks of her like looking after her kids and talking about their dad. And then in season 3, we have the backstory of the fact that Madison actually killed, I think it was her own mother or grandmother, I forgot which one it was, but Madison killed somebody, like, in the normal world, not in the apocalypse. And then we kind of realize, like, Madison is, like, insane. Like, she's not insane, but she's a bit, like, psychopathic or something. Like, she's normal and everything, but she's got malicious intent, even, like, and this world, a bit like Nick, has brought the worst out of her too, or not the worst, but brought another side out. And this is why the top 5 list contains Clarks, because each Clark is so unique. And I honestly am going to talk about it at some point, but I think that the Clarks are better than the Grimes, and I generally am not being delusional. I generally believe that. I think that Rick is the only good Grime. I don't know if you want to count Judith or Michonne, and of course you definitely have Laurie and Carl, which I would talk about in another time. But the Clarks, in my opinion, each are all like a different side of a triangle, you know, between being really weird and unique and special, between being ruthless, violent, and malicious, and between being heartfelt, caring, and helpful, and like with Alicia. That's what I have to say about it. And I think that Madison is my favourite Clark. And, you know, even if maybe sometimes the things that I have to say didn't justify any of these characters, this is, if I had to just tell you a list of my top 5 favourite Walking Dead universe characters, this would be it. Even if I had no justifiable reason, this is my opinion. But I tried to explain it. I probably didn't do it the best, but that's basically my top 5 favourite list. I know that that's probably a controversial list, but I think one thing that is good about the original Seasons of Fear that I forget to mention more now, but I mentioned more in the past, is the characters of the first 3 Seasons of Fear were very, very, very good. They were very good. Dave Erickson knew how to write characters. And I feel like some of the other characters, maybe because they were part of a comic book, was why maybe I don't love them as much. Not because they were bad, but because Erickson just had this different intent and really made the characters shine. And I think that, in my opinion, I completely agree with that. And of course, Rick Grimes, I love him. And there are loads of other characters I love from Fear and The Walking Dead. I don't want to get it twisted. You know, like Negan is a great character. I love him. I love Herschel. Yeah, I can't think of it at the top of my head, but I do love characters from The Walking Dead, and I think that maybe to talk about my top 5 favourite The Walking Dead characters would be another interesting one, because I could absolutely talk about them, because just because I didn't mention them in my top 5 favourite of all time universe doesn't mean that I don't love them. And like I already stated, any character on this list was a 10 out of 10. So just because, you know, I've just done these 5 and they're all part of Fear, these aren't my only 10 out of 10s or my only like 9, 8 out of 10s, like my favourites. Like, these are just my top 5. But please tell me what your top favourite characters are, because I'm really interested to hear whether you agree or whether you think that no Fear characters, or maybe you think that maybe I should have put Daniel instead of Nick or Rick, or do you think I should have put Daniel instead of Strand? Do you think that I haven't mentioned people? Have I forgotten about anyone? Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.